Hey everyone, this is Homemaking with Rebecca. Today I'm making some beef broth and I wanted to bring you along and show you how I make it. It's getting that time of year when we like to make soups and stews and things like that, and I love to have homemade broth on hand to make those with. I also love to just drink homemade broth in the mornings, especially if you're trying to do some sort of gut reset or you've eaten too much sugar. Just kind of adding in some of that bone broth can really help reset your system. So I love to have some homemade broth on hand. I like to make up a batch and I'll stick some in the freezer so I can have it on hand for when I need it. So I'm using these beef bones from my friend Glenna. She is with Firefly Farms. If you are local to me, you can check her out. So I made beef broth with these bones several times last year and they were just so good. So she has grass-fed cattle and she keeps lots of bones on hand if you need some bones. You can also check with your local farmer. They typically have bones on hand that you can buy from them and they're fairly inexpensive. And broth is just such a nutritious food that you can make for fairly cheap. And you can add it to, like I said, your soups and stews. You can add it to rice. You can cook vegetables in it. I'm going to be making this. It's going to be very, very simple broth. So all we're going to need here is our bones, and then we're going to need some apple cider vinegar and some salt. So I love to have just a very clean tasting broth. You can add vegetables and stuff to your broth, but I'm gonna be cooking this for 12 hours. And I feel like the vegetables break down quite a bit and make it where it's not as good. And when I'm wanting to drink this broth just on its own, I just prefer a really clean taste without the vegetables in there. And then when I'm making my soup, I'll add my vegetables and stuff into the soup. But if you're wanting to add vegetables or herbs or anything like that, I would suggest you do it for the last couple hours instead of putting them in at the beginning. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna roast these bones and then we're gonna make our broth. So I'm just going to use about half of these bones today, and then I'm going to put the rest in the freezer to use for another time because I just don't need that much broth at one time, and my crock pot isn't super big, so I just need about half of these. If you wanted to do it in a pot on the stove, a big pot, you could use all of them and make a really big pot, but like I said, I'm just going to use half for right now. So we're going to put these on our roasting pan, and then I'm going to get them in the oven. The oven is set on 425, and we're going to roast these up, and that's just going to deepen the flavor, so it's going to give our broth a nice, rich flavor. I'm just going to pop those in the oven for about 30 minutes to let them roast, and then we'll pull them out and they should be nice and browned. So we got these beef bones nice and roasted up, and now we're going to get them in our crock pot. So these only took about 20 minutes to roast. I thought they would take a little bit longer since they were frozen, but they just took about 20 minutes to roast. And we're just gonna get them in here. I'm gonna put in some of this apple cider vinegar. So the apple cider vinegar helps draw out a lot of the nutrients and the gelatin and the collagen and stuff out of the bones, and just helps give you a really nice gelatin like broth, and that is really, really good for you. It's, like I said, it's good for that gut healing and stuff. And so we're going to get this covered with water, and then I'm just going to let this sit overnight. And like I said, I usually let it cook for about 12 hours. I'm going to put it on low, and then when I get up in the morning, I can strain all this off. I'm going to put a little bit more water in there and to get this filled up. That filled up, and then I'll toss in some salt and we're good to go. So our broth has been cooking overnight. It's about 13 or so hours right now, and you can see we've got a nice broth here. You can see that layer of fat on top, the yellow, and our bones have cooked down. Whatever meat's left on them has gotten cooked, and you can eat the meat off the bones. Sometimes bones will have a good bit of meat left on them, sometimes they don't. but I'm going to get ready to strain this, and then I'm actually going to do another pot of broth today. You can use these same bones, and you can do a couple of pots of broth with the same bones. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to turn this off first and get it cooling down, and I'm going to go ahead and have me a cup of some broth this morning since it's already nice and warm. Just add a little bit more salt to this and stir it up, and I'm going to drink me some broth to get my day going today. So now I'm just going to get my broth strained out, and I'm just using a strainer here, but if you want your broth to be super smooth, you could also line your strainer with a cheesecloth to get out all the little bits and pieces. We're going to strain off this first batch, and I'm going to put it in this glass jar that I can just keep in my refrigerator, and I'm going to be using it within the next week or so. So I'm just going to keep that in this jar in my refrigerator and let it cool down really good first, and then you can pop it in the fridge. So I'm going to go ahead and strain off the rest of this, and then I want to let it cool for a bit because I'm going to be putting this in some plastic containers that I can put in my freezer. I just get these plastic containers off Amazon. They worked really well for me in the freezer. So you want to let this cool completely, and then even put it in your refrigerator for a little bit, and you can pop it in the freezer. Just leave a little head space in there because it's going to expand a little bit. I find these are really good to just pop in the freezer, and then you can just pull them out and they thaw really good. And you can have broth for whenever you need it. So this broth works great in my crock pot cheeseburger soup recipe. You can find that link in the description below. I hope you have a great day today. Thanks so much for watching.